someone very special to me because we're doing some major work with Canonical. She is in that beautiful orange dress, and I like that touch. Is that orange, right? Orangish? Kind of, sorta. We kind of match. Jane, you're amazing. Thank you so much for being here with Canonical. Please, Jane. Before we get going with all the great stuff that Canonical is working in the open source community and so on, let me give you one quick experience I had with Mark Shelver. Anytime Jane comes up, the Mark becomes a topic, right? You guys are two peas in a pod. So the first question I'm about to ask Mark goes, "Don't ask me anything about my space trip." You guys know that, right? Mark Shuttleworth, Ubuntu Canonical, went to space. And I made the biggest mistake because we are a SpaceX partner. They use our storage. So you went with SpaceX, right? He goes, "I went with Russian." But with the Russian rocket ship, right? With the rocket, whatever they call.
He was the second space tourist.
And he ended up with the space station? He went to the space station or no?
He was on the International Space Station for 9 days.
Amazing. So he said to me, he doesn't want to talk about this because he talks about it all the time. It's get boring. So I just wanted to ask you, have you been to the Russian space station?
No.
No.
That's not nearly as interesting as things happening in the data center and in open
Nice
source.
segue. I love this. I love this. You keep it real. You keep it real. I love that. So, Jane, a little bit about yourself. How did you end up at the Canonical?
So, no connection to space. I have a long career in tech. I started my career as a software developer. I started as primarily a C and C++ programmer. Truth be told, I actually started with Fortran, but that makes me sound too old. So
Oh my God. I failed that class at my college in Turkey.
And then have been working in tech roles, a variety of tech roles over the years, in the health industry, in the defense industry, doing some AI research in Japan for a while. I moved to the UK. I'm American. I moved to the UK in 2002, a little bit as a career break, and to move overseas again. And then met Mark Shuttleworth, who's as Tarkan mentioned, who's the founder of Ubuntu, and joined Canonical in 2004, which is when it was founded, and have been there since.
Been there since then. And you guys been through amazing journey, right? I mean, Ubuntu. By the way, people ask me, Ubuntu Canonical. Tell us, can you explain the brand definition?
Yeah, so Canonical is the name of the company. Ubuntu is the name of our primary product. Ubuntu is the open source operating system. Ubuntu runs everything from scale-out computing in public and private clouds, all the way through desktops, phones, and increasingly IoT devices. Excuse me. Canonical is the name of the company. We made that distinction early on, very intentionally. It's a little confusing now, but startups make early decisions that then,
Sure.
then you live with for a long time.
We've been all through that in our companies.
But an early important principle for us, and it continues to be an important principle, is the collaboration between community and corporate interests. And we want Ubuntu to be a platform that developers and companies and users can adopt easily. And we felt it was important to make the distinction between Ubuntu, the project and the software, and Canonical, which is named because we're the canonical source of Ubuntu, and have those be different identities and different brands. Other companies provide Ubuntu support, SIs provide Ubuntu support, and we think that's fine and a good, healthy ecosystem. And
on that note, we actually, a little bit of context here for the folks. Nexenta is very famous for this ZFS file system, scale up. It's all Illumos Solaris backend. Yep. Now had multiple incarnations within Nexenta with our 6,000 customers, all this great, and a lot of them are in the room. But as customers are moving to more scale-out systems, OpenStack-driven, container-driven, obviously Linux was the next frontier for us, and a lot of customers told us, we want Ubuntu. We want Ubuntu, and sometimes you would get, we want Canonical. No, Ubuntu, no. So that was a conversation, but the tie-in is here. You guys done an amazing job, speaking of community, to rally the community by keeping it real. There are a lot of companies doing a lot of press releases, announcements, a lot of oobly-gob, but at the end of the day, you guys just keep running the ball. it's a football analogy here, but how are you different as a company? And tell us a little bit, tying to that is, what is the next phase of Canonical? From here, where we go?
I like that you switched to football. I was going to, since I live in the UK, I felt obliged to correct the earlier soccer references to football. And I think you've hit on an important thing in terms of us keeping it real. We have an ethos within the company of making things just work. We talk a lot about what just works. And I think it's important for us to provide technology that just works for the customers. It's one of the reasons why our partnership with Nexenta works so well, is that we don't believe in logo swap partnerships. You know, we've all been in companies where there's a giant logo wall and you don't really know how much depth there is behind those relationships. We believe in partnerships that actually deliver value, that actually work for the customers. In the scale-out cloud space, for example, we partner with companies like Nexenta and ensure that the company's products work well together so that the customer benefits. We focus our upstream contributions on making sure that things work in production, not changes to promote our own technologies. I know many people have mentioned OpenStack earlier today as an example. Most OpenStack clouds are built on Ubuntu. More OpenStack clouds are built on Ubuntu than any.
Most people don't know this. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Than any other all the other operating systems combined.
So the company Orange Hat company on the East Coast, they are actually second, right? Second to you guys in size, I think. In deployment.
Yeah, given their ownership of CentOS now, I think CentOS is actually second, and then they're follow on behind that. But one of the things that we do to enable that is building clouds continuously. We run a lab with partners like Nexenta and other technology providers where we have an automated harness that builds and tests and tears down 3,000 clouds a month in different combinations and permutations, because customers want to choose their own storage provider or SDN or any other components. And it's important, I think, to enable that choice and ensure that those combinations and permutations really, really work. And it's a critical piece for us and a continual focus to us to provide that it just works. Keep it real, as you said.
Can I tell someone? I really love you here. I don't know if people following up, I know people are doing emails and so on. Are you guys understanding what we're talking about here? I know Jane is very soft-spoken, but there's a huge power here. There are a lot of players in the space, from Orange Hat to all the other companies in the space. You know, Amit, you know some of these companies that Wipro is dealing with as well. Most of them are trying to be their own stack. They tell the customer, use me, end to end, I'm your game. Yes, I'm open, but I'm closed open. What you're hearing from Canonical, and that's the reason we invested in the partnership from the beginning, primarily Jane and the team here, is because the true openness you guys believe in. So if there are other vendors coming in from a SDN perspective, compute perspective, embracing all of those vendors together in a true open fashion for better outcomes. And this is not a cliche. So really appreciate that partnership. Actually, that meant a lot to us. That's what we talk about in our product planning meeting. It's kind of crazy. Everybody's killing each other. But at the end of the day, when we're talking about vision, that's a big part of our vision because of you and what you guys taught us and mentored us on.
There's people have mentioned it already today about this increasing complexity in the data center, and it's absolutely true, and it's mind-boggling to users who are trying to build their cloud or to update their infrastructure. And it can be viewed as a negative thing, and some vendors will come in either trying to enforce a single rigid view of the world, or with an army of consultants to help you build a snowflake that is only yours and that you will care and feed by yourselves for the end of eternity. And we think both of those models, both of those extremes are wrong. We think, or not sustainable, not scalable, not updatable, not going to help the customer in the long run. We think there absolutely has to be choice. Things evolve quickly, new technology, new providers come in. There's reasons why one technology or one vendor is better in some circumstances than another. But I think that choice has to be in a way that allows you to still maintain that updatability, that security, and when you're not alone on that path. And so we try to create, through our tooling and automation and partnerships, a way for users to, we haven't talked about it, of letting them choose their own adventure. You can have something that's your architecture and your choice of vendors, and here's a set of combinations and permutations that we know work, that you won't be alone in that path, and that there's tested upgrade paths and things like that.
So I was right before this, in the break, the 10-minute quick exit, speed dating going on. I was having a coffee. Someone came up to me. Can you ask, please, sir, about Juju? Please talk about Juju. What is Juju?
That's a very good question. So Juju is a piece of open source software that Canonical produces. It is a tool to do modeling of service-oriented architectures. It is one of the reasons why we can build OpenStack Cloud so efficiently and with these combinations and permutations of technology that I've talked about. So for example, it allows you to model your overall architecture of, say, in an OpenStack Cloud. All the knowledge associated with a certain service in terms of how to deploy it, how to scale it, how to upgrade it is encapsulated in a charm, in a Juju charm, which is a piece of code in any language. And it allows you to lay down that model of what your architecture looks like and rely on the best practices that the owners of that technology have encapsulated in that charm. It's a really powerful tool. It's what we use to build OpenStack clouds. It is open source, people can use it. But interestingly, in this increased world of complexity, that same set of challenges isn't unique to OpenStack. It's not solely an OpenStack tool. Nearly everything that people are deploying now are these complex architectures that, as a business, and especially when you think about startups, it's not their competitive advantage to know how to spend their time maintaining that whole architecture. They want to build the infrastructure to get to the product or service on top. So that same Juju tool is used extensively, for example, in big data deployments. Because once you start actually doing something in big data, it's not just a matter of deploying Hadoop. You have other systems and tools and services to ingest, to do the ETL of the data, to do the analytics. And how you construct that entire architecture, how you scale that architecture, how you upgrade it, how you deploy it in a public cloud or on Metal, becomes a process that you want to be repeatable, that you want it to be automated. And Juju allows that encapsulation and automation to deploy and scale any complex, to model and deploy any complex service-oriented architecture.
Very good. So tying to the next phase of Canonical, but before you think about the next phase and next step, what's next for Canonical and for the industry, maybe a little bit an anecdote. There are a lot of these new companies, new startups are filing for IPOs. Now we're seeing all their true numbers, especially in our storage space. Obviously, you're seeing some of them also in your space. And open conversation, and this was also talk of town here at the VMworld. So a lot of press releases, announcements, shiny objects, big colors, and so on, and then you peel the onion, then you realize for every $1 they're selling, they're putting actual $4 bills on the box to grow their top line, but the fundamentals are not there. And obviously Wall Street now is looking at this a little bit more careful, trying to understand what's really going on. Yes, top line is great, fantastic, but with what's going on in the economic fluctuations around the world, China and everything else, now people are worried more about profitability. You're an open source company. Obviously, there's a unique model of business model. You guys making money. Talk about the business model and tie to that technology innovation as you move forward, how those things come together and you keep growing, supporting the community, leading the community like you were leading today, because you're considered one of the unicorns who is super tight. The company has a very strong business model based on a great community, but it's not a charity. It's open source, yes, but company makes also money. Can you talk about those things, business model, tech, next phase based on that story?
Sure, sure. So our business model, broadly speaking, is we provide tooling and services around Ubuntu itself. Ubuntu is free to download. You can download and use it on a personal basis or on an organizational basis. You can go to our website and download it for desktop, servers, cloud, all of that. And we provide a set of both professional services as well as systems management tools and things like that on an annual subscription basis. In terms of the evolution of where that's going and what's coming next, I think there's a couple interesting trends that we see. And I'd separate them on broadly speaking, different domains. So Ubuntu as a general platform, as I mentioned, is used in IoT devices, in phones, desktops. That's very much an app-driven economy, and I think
and user-driven.
And user-driven. In the cloud and scale-out space, I think the economics that we see in the public cloud are coming to the private cloud and will continue to come to private cloud and enterprise computing. When an organization is building a private cloud for their developers or their internal use, they're effectively competing with a public cloud, and their internal customers are making a choice between the public cloud and the consumption economics and cost transparency that you get in the public cloud and what they'll be getting in the private cloud. And I think enterprises and vendors are starting to realize that. And so I think we'll see even more utility-based costing in the enterprise market. We at Canonical are already moving in this direction and have introduced a couple, I think, pretty innovative ways of pricing our services. So for example, one of our service offerings is a product we call BootStack, which is an offering where we will build and manage a private cloud for somebody. It can be on premises in their data center. And when they're able and ready to take over ownership with it, we'll turn the keys over to them and they can have it from then on. But many organizations want to get a cloud, but everybody here, I think, knows how hard it is to get good talent. And many organizations either don't have the talent or it just doesn't make sense financially to build a team that can provide SLAs 24/7 for the size of cloud that they're talking about. But those clouds, that offering that we're offering, we will price it either on a per node basis or a per VM basis, per month or per day. And it's getting that transparency that people, and the scaling factors that people expect from the public cloud into the private data center and into the private cloud. And I think that will ripple up the stack into storage offerings and other technology components there as well.
Fantastic. So one last point. One of our themes for this event, and nothing scripted here, you didn't hear this question before.
This is the point where the person in the chair starts to worry about where's he going.
Nothing about Jose Mourinho, nothing about Chelsea. But let's keep it real. Technology space, very male-dominated, right? Yep. It's no new news. Actually, we had Hillary Clinton here last year, one of our keynote speakers. This year, we actually had Sheryl Sandberg coming in, last minute, loss in her family. She had to pull out from the event. But our theme, actually part of the theme is, and I was waiting for this moment to talk to his CEO of a phenomenal company like Canonical, also Elissa Murphy at CTO at GoDaddy, but I wanted to have a conversation with you about this very quick, and the last topic is this. What do you think about the woman in leadership now? More of, woman leadership is happening now in tech. Marissa at Yahoo, obviously Elissa like GoDaddy, yourself, Sheryl at obviously what's going on in Facebook, more to list. What do you think about this? With STEM education in universities, we're going to talk about the next topic is with Tom Tarlakson and Mohamed Chaudhary. STEM education now with women students are like just more focused, female students more focusing on that. What's your vision for that for the future? Because I know you mentor a lot of people in your company and outside. What's your view about that?
So it's a very interesting question. I think we could talk for way more than 20 minutes
sure.
just on that topic alone. I think some of the examples and high-profile examples that you call out are super valuable. As a woman that's always been in a male-dominant environment, not just tech, but I spent 10 years in the defense industry as well. I think the existence of role models and the existence of, even if you don't have any connection with them, just a person that has proven that it's possible is incredibly valuable. I think it's easy to underestimate the impact that can have. Clearly, that's not enough, though, that the addressing STEM education and the rates with which young girls drop out of technical subjects early in their school career is important. I think there's no easy answer. There's no one single thing to do. It's a multifaceted problem that needs a multifaceted approach. But I think things are changing. The examples that you've called out, the fact that
you're the proof, yeah.
Myself aside, the fact that there have been so many talented women on your stage, I think, is a credit to the women who've been up here, but also to Nick Senta for making that possible. And I think, just to wrap it back around, I think open source and the community efforts within open source can provide, they don't always succeed in this, but can provide a really valuable on-ramp into the tech community, particularly for women, in an environment where it can be a very welcoming meritocracy. I think it's a great place for women to gain real experience, to be judged on their contributions. The rates of women's participation in open source are equally low to what happens in the general tech industry and in proprietary tech, but I would like to think that it can be a place that leads the way. And there are a number of good efforts focused on women in technology, both in specific projects like OpenSDx, from companies like Dell and Intel and others, promoting that. But I think there's a real opportunity there to make dramatic changes.
Most people don't get this, but you don't have to say anything because I don't want to put you on spot. Mark Shuttleworth is a force of nature, right? He's a tsunami. He's an alpha dog. When I meet him, I feel like I'm the omega. You know the cartoon movie Up? I'm the omega. He has so much passion. He's an innovator, founder of the company, and so on. It says a lot that, Jen, you took the reins now of the company, taking the next level, and it's so much fun watching your success as a leader in this business, and thank you so much for the true partnership. You're soft-spoken, and our team loves you because the way you deliver your message in a subtle way, and we'll love to follow you wherever you're going. So thank you so much for all the leadership, mentorship, and partnership. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jen. Big hand. So speaking of